Hi, I'm Scott Ambush of Spyro Gyra, and you're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com.
Hi everyone, John Liebman here. You're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com. We're coming to you on location from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with our old friend Spyro Gyra bassist, longtime Spyro Gyra bassist, Scott Ambush. How you doing, Scott?
I'm doing great, man. Glad to be here.
Glad to be with you. We did an interview, I don't know how many years ago it was, but it was definitely years ago. And we got the whole story, your musical upbringing, and a lot of other great stuff. Check that interview out on ForBassPlayersOnly.com. Put Scott Ambush in. Boy, it's nice to have a name that's probably very seldom misspelled.
Well, people try to misspell. They can't believe that it's just Ambush. Yes. So they put a C in it, they put an H on it, you know.
Fancy.
Yeah.
But you're just a regular guy. So you've been with Spyro Gyra. It's got to be in the 25 to 30 year range, I bet, almost.
Yeah, it's a 25 to 30 year range, yeah.
My goodness. Well, good for you. A steady gig.
Yeah, at least. Yeah.
Well, like I said, it's been a while since we last spoke, so bring us up to date on some of the highlights of what's been happening lately, if there's anything in the last 2, 3, 4 years that is significant or of note that you'd want to share with these folks here that you think they'd find interesting. Tell us what you've been up to.
Sure. Been doing more gigs with my own band, mostly around the D.C. area. Actually, we just played last night at South here in Philadelphia, the club that Gerald is the musical impresario for.
I should mention Gerald Veasley. We're here at the Gerald Veasley Bass Boot Camp. And it's another bass hang, and this is a good one. I've never been to this one before.
Yeah, it's really cool. You know, they have almost 90 bass players here taking the course, which is full capacity. That's all that they had room for. So they were turning people away. So it's been really successful. This is the 18th camp. 17th
Go
camp.
Gerald. Good for him, huh?
Really great. So I've been doing that, and of course playing with Spyro, and we're still touring, keeping busy. Just finished a new CD, which will be out in a couple of months, hopefully May or June.
About the 100th, 150th CD with?
It feels like it. No, it's in the low 30s. It depends on whether you count
compilations, best of
compilations and stuff. So so that's new, and it's interesting because after putting out that many CDs, you're constantly looking for a different angle on what to do instead of just another Spyro Gyra CD. And so this one we decided to kind of go back to our roots and to pull some tunes that were that influenced us and that we loved from the vinyl era.
Such as
Tempted by the Fruit of Another by Squeeze, Hydra Love Away by the Beatles. There's a couple of there's a Stevie Winwood tune, a Blind Faith tune from War.
Which War tune?
Cisco Kid.
Okay.
Yeah, and we're actually doing it in an odd meter. I think that one's in 5, I think. So some different takes on it. We do stuff to make it interesting.
What's the title of the album?
The album is actually called Vinyl Tap.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
So
I love that title.
Right. It begs all the bad jokes, But so that's what's going on with
Turn it up to 11.
Right, exactly. So that's what's going on with Spyro, and building basses. Still building basses.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit about that. You make your own basses, and that's pretty much all you play is your own stuff, right?
That's right. That's all I play is my own stuff, and I build them. I start with raw materials and build them all the way through to the end.
All by yourself?
All by my lonesome, which is why it takes so long. But I'm working on that too, trying to reduce the build times.
Well, in doing this gig that I've created for myself over the last 10 years or so, I've gotten to meet a lot of people like Mike Tobias and Roger Sadowski and Pete Schold, and I've been over to the Warwick factory in Germany 3 times. So tell us what, if you can keep it pretty much in layman's terms, what you think might be interesting in terms of types of wood and processes and, I don't know, fingerboards, frets, pickups, bridges, anything that you think would be insightful as to how your basses are different from some of the other basses that are available.
Right. I think the biggest difference in my basses is that they're built by a working bass player. Um, that's not to say that other basses aren't. I know Pete still gigs a lot.
Ned Steinberger is not a musician in any way, shape, or form.
Right, but he was very successful with it. So, I just try to use the best woods that are available and to keep the weight low. My basses are made with maple necks or wood. I mean, I'm doing some oak and different things, trying some different things. But they're 5-piece necks, and the stringers are actually carbon fiber rather than wood, which makes the neck really nice and stiff and very resonant. So yeah, those are that's the main things that differentiates them from someone else's basses.
Okay, but you don't make your own pickups or your own hardware, do you?
No. Using Babbage bridges
Okay.
and different pickups. I've been using different pickups. Some people want different things. The bass I'm playing now has Aguilar humbucking jazz bass pickups in it under custom covers. I make my own covers, out of solid wood. So they're carved out of. These are solid walnut. So yeah, and ebony fingerboard on this one, stainless frets. Whatever. Actually, I can do whatever someone's interested in. I've got 2 basses in the works now. One is a zebra wood top with a maple fingerboard. With a rosewood fingerboard, and then there's another one that's a curly maple top with a maple fingerboard, and a third one that is a curly redwood top with a ebony fingerboard.
You do the painting and everything, start to finish?
Yeah, I do the finishing and everything. Yeah.
Well, what are these called? Ambush bases?
So ambush basses.
I love it. Talk to me a little bit about your technique, because you've been with Spyro, like we said, for so long. You've got some of your own projects, your own band, and where I'm coming from with that question, we're been for bass players only. We've been pretty much known for our interviews that we've done. We're the 500-600 interviews.
Oh, wow.
And we have recently added online bass instruction. I took all the lessons from johnliebman.com, brought those over, and I'm building a faculty there. So I mentioned that to set up the question, what do you think people need to know if they are, they could be hobbyists or people that are up and coming, or they want to be professional bass players? Is there anything that you think is just so obvious that they're not doing, or is there something that maybe they are doing that puts them right on track? Or, grooving obviously is important, but what, in that spirit, what do you think is important for a bass player to be able to do groove-wise and technique-wise?
Well, I think as far as technique is concerned, we're speaking very broadly here. Getting a good sound is the most important thing. A nice round tone, clear, without a lot of fret noise, a lot of So working on your technique to develop that is probably one of the first things I would suggest. Because you hear some beginning bass players and even more advanced bass players where the tone of the bass isn't good, and it's not because the bass doesn't have a good tone, but the way they're striking the string. Also, it goes to how the bass is set up. You get a lot of fret noise, a lot of buzzing, just not a very pleasing tone. So that all comes into the technique.
It's easy to blame the instrument, isn't it?
That's right. It all comes under the technique umbrella,
I remember my first time in an actual recording studio. I was a teenager, and they played it back, and I just couldn't believe all the noise and all the things I was hearing. And when I think about that, it's hard to believe that something in me made me continue and go on to cultivate my career as a bass player.
But at first you don't succeed, right?
Well, I sure didn't. What about, I didn't ask you when I was asking about your gear, what about amplification? What do you use for that?
I'm I endorse. I always get that confused. Endorser. I'm an endorser.
You're an endorser,
Yeah.
and you're one of their
They're
endorse.
endorsees.
No. Well, anyway, you endorse.
Right. Aguilar.
Okay.
Yeah. So I use the Tonehammer 500 head
Yeah.
and 2 SL112 cabinets when I'm doing my own gigs. That's my personal rig. That's what I like. When I'm on the road, it's generally the 410 cabinets, the standard 410 cabinets, and more often than not, the 751 head, because that's what most rental companies have.
Yeah.
But the rider specifies Aguilar if we can get it.
Okay. Now I know you've got a pretty busy schedule coming up, and I know that you know for the foreseeable future where you're going to be and what you're going to be doing for the most part, though other things are sure to come up. But what I'm getting at is, what about beyond that for the future? Is there something you've always wanted to do that you just haven't gotten around to yet?
Well, I'm long overdue for a solo CD, so I'm compiling material for that.
I'm sorry to chuckle, but I've interviewed, like I said, 600 bass players. I asked that question. Almost everybody gives me that answer.
Right, because that's what we're all thinking,
And then the next thing is, but I don't want to make it one of those bass records. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right. That's true. That's true. But mine's going to be a bit of a bass record. Okay. I am a bass player after all. Yeah. So, so that's in the not too distant future. Doing all more gigs with my own band has really relit that fire underneath me to get some of my arrangements out there and my material. So,
and I don't mean to make light of it, because it's time. The bass traditionally is a supportive instrument, and we're kind of in the background supporting, laying down the groove. But there are a lot of bass players that have a lot to say. Not everybody gives me that answer, but I hear that answer a lot. So I commend you on your desire to do that, and I speak for all of us. I think we would like to see that come to fruition. So I encourage you to do it, and let us know when it's out. Not if it's out, but when it's out.
Exactly.
And we will all enjoy it.
I hope so.
Okay. Anything else comes to mind immediately?
No. Thanks for the interview, and it's good to see you again.
Well, thank you.
Continue good success with the site and the books and all the stuff.
Thank you, and continued success with your bass building and your bass playing career. I'm just curious, what kind of volume do you turn out bass-wise? If you're a one-man band making basses?
Yeah, we don't talk in terms of volume. We don't talk in terms of volume. They're made to order. So it depends on on the orders, who's interested in picking one up. So just one here, one there.
Could you ever see yourself having a factory or a?
Well, I would love to. Not a factory necessarily, but I would love to be able to increase my volume to maybe do a couple of dozen basses a year, maybe a little more. So.
Okay, great. I don't remember if I asked you this last time or not, because it was so long ago. But what would you be, if you can imagine, if you weren't a bass player? Something outside of music.
I don't know. It would be something where I was creating something. I think that's for sure. Maybe a custom car builder, or maybe a custom cabinet maker. Something where I was working with my hands, but something creative.
Okay. Kind of what you're doing now, but outside of music.
Yeah,
works.
Kind of. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Very good. Well, but you will continue making basses and playing basses in the meantime, we all hope.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks very much. Great getting together with you. And it's nice sitting and talking like this, because usually we bump into each other. It's at a NAMM show or something. How you doing, Scott? And we're screaming at each other. Exactly. So this is refreshing.
This is great.
That's right. On location in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, with our old friend Scott Ambush with Spyro Gyra. I'm John Liebman. You're watching for BassPlayersOnly.com.